welcome to the Circles and Squares news report for Monday, April 11th, 2022. I'm James, and that's Katie, and that makes this part of the Circles and Squares PlayStation podcast. Kate, welcome to the show once again. How are you today?
Thank you. It's nice to be here. I've had a really good gaming weekend, played some Mario Party and some Wii Party.
Nice.
And those are I don't even think I lost any friends, so it's been a good time.
It's funny you mentioned you're playing some Nintendo stuff because I've been playing Paper Mario. I know on the show last week I
Mhm,
talked about being into Star Fox 64. Went through that. It's obviously really short. But then ever since then I
mhm.
saw Paper Mario kind of on that Nintendo 64 online thing, and I clicked that and I just haven't looked back. It's been
Yeah,
addicting and such a nostalgia trip.
that is amazing. I have a funny, actually, Wii story for you before we get started here today, and it's just such a funny thing. So we're gonna play Wii Party, which is basically like a Mario Party, like, mini game kinda thing. But we figure, like, we all have to make some Miis on my buddy's Wii because, like, you play as yourself and, like, it's kinda funny. So anyone who didn't have one, we took turns, we made a character. And as we were going through and looking at, like, the Miis on the screen, it's been years since my friend has, like, booted up
Yeah,
his Wii,
yeah.
right? And so he turned it on and he was looking at them, we're like, "Oh, who's that?" And we're like, "Who's that? Who's that funny one?" And there was some guy, I think his name was, like, Carl. We're like, "Who's that?" And he's like, "Oh, that's Carl, my old friend." He's like, "Actually, we're not friends anymore." And he deleted Carl. And we were cracking up, like, that's the ultimate petty thing to do,
Deleting a
is when you,
me,
like,
yeah.
yeah, you get in a fight with someone, you go on your Wii and you delete their custom Wii. But then the funny part was we, like, got into game right away, and I don't know if, like, the game just hadn't updated or, like, how it works in that server, but, like, we were picking our characters and it's like, "Okay, pick which me you are," and Carl was an option, but he was just like a blacked out silhouette, like as if it was
To remind
like a
you that you've murdered
gunshot
him.
target,
He's
yeah, and
gone.
it's like he's gone, but we'll never forget him. So,
Oh my god.
that was
Well,
pretty
sorry
funny.
about that, Carl. Wow,
Yeah,
that's great.
but we just laughed, we're like, "That's one step up from, like, changing your Netflix password, is, like,
Right,
going and
right,
deleting their me."
right. That's like, yeah, that's the ultimate form
Yeah.
for sure. Wow. All right, well, we're talking about PlayStation news today, and other gaming news as well, not just Nintendo politics. So we'll get into that, but just I wanted to remind everyone before the show gets fully going that we have a lot of listeners out there that we see who watch us on YouTube and don't subscribe. So if you're one of those people, do us a favor. We're trying to get up to 50 subscribers just to get a nice round number. So 3 more, get to that point. If you're one of those people, help us out. Thank you very much. And one other piece of news is that we actually are, as far as PlayStation news today, we're just talking more about some rumors, discussing kind of our feeling, how likely it might be, because we talked about all the important PlayStation focused news on our last episode on Monday, which was episode 53 of our Circles and Squares podcast show. And that covers all of the Spartacus stuff, the PlayStation Plus updates, some really big news on that show, actually. So go check that one out. And today we're just going to chill with some talk about the BAFTA Game Awards and a few other things as well. So let's get right into that, Kate. I've assembled a little collection of PlayStation rumors around the internet,
Mhm.
and we're just going to talk about them. Let's just see how we feel. So the first one, and this is kind of not completely PlayStation focused, is that Quantic Dream, one of our studios that we like these. We were just talking about how we were ranking these games, and Detroit did so well on our combined
They did.
25 list. Heavy Rain did
They
well
did.
too. But
Mhm.
anyway, Quantic Dream is rumored to be getting purchased by a company called NetEase. Kind of this, it's a Chinese tech company that sort of has investment in a lot of games and other tech companies as well. And they already have I think the article says a small investment in Quantic Dream, so they're just looking to maybe buy it outright. Interesting stuff, and especially since there's been a lot of, I guess, studios being bought recently. So how do you feel about this?
I feel like it's kinda surprising because you would have thought this would have been, like, an obvious one for PlayStation to pick up in their sweep of studios because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think all of their games are console exclusive for
I
Sony
think
anyway?
Beyond wasn't. I think
Maybe
that one.
Beyond
I'm gonna look
wasn't?
it up. Just give me a sec.
Okay, because I know Heavy Rain and Detroit, they're on Steam, and they're on PC, but they are
Oh
definitely
yeah,
only on
Beyond only on
PlayStation.
Windows as well. Yeah, you're right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
True. Yeah, that's interesting.
mm,
Hmm. I didn't even put that together. I was under the impression Beyond was on Xbox. So there's that theory. It's interesting, right? I guess because they already own part of the company, maybe because I know there's like always the talk of like kind of toxic work culture type of thing. Like maybe PlayStation's just like, oh, we shouldn't buy these guys and you know
mhm.
make that official and then make ourselves kind of under some fire indirectly. So maybe that's something NetEase doesn't care about. Not too sure, but interesting. Second rumor, where are we at here? I've got a few listed down. Is that Ratchet and Clank Going Commando, which is the 2003 sequel to the original Ratchet and Clank, will be coming to the new PlayStation Plus service, because I think there was a tweet put out by Insomniac themselves, kind of being like, "Oh, this game still looks pretty beautiful." And so to me, that one seems very realistic, because we know they're going to be putting a bunch of like PS1, PS2 on the new service. And you know, Ratchet and Clank just makes a lot of sense. They just had Rift Apart last year. It's a pretty recognizable game franchise, I guess. It just seems to make sense.
Yeah, I would honestly be surprised if there was a Ratchet and Clank game that, like, I guess maybe like some of the PSP spin-offs, but like I would assume all of the mainline games are gonna be on there. It's like, like all like Crash, Spyro, Ratchet, like, Sly Cooper, I would imagine they would all
Hmm.
be on there as like, the reasons to pick up the retro collection.
It would make sense, yeah. How do you feel about the angle of like maybe they're focusing to like really show you this one in particular? Because what if they're gonna remaster it like they did the original in 2016? Because now that they've done Rift Apart, maybe they'll do like what Pokemon does
Mhm.
and like alternate a remake and then a new game with two different teams.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense because I think Somniac is working on something new.
I think they're working on
If
Wolverine
I
as well,
remember,
right?
they're working on maybe Wolverine is what the new thing ended up being, but
And as
they
well as
also
Spider-Man 2 as well.
yeah, because they also had that, was it them that had that rumor that they were doing something co-op?
Was it them? I thought
And
that
I
might have
think
been
it was
Housemark.
because,
Or
or
maybe you're
maybe it was
right.
Housemarque? I think it was them because I think we still thought, like, what if it's a Ratchet& and Clank, like, one person
Hmm.
plays
Hmm.
Ratchet, one person
You're
plays,
right. You're right.
Rivet, so, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe it seems like they've got a lot of stuff going on, but
That's a good point. That's a good point. I mean, unless they're giving it to Blue Point or something like that. That could be
ooh. I thought Bluepoint was making something new,
the
though.
yeah, see now we're
I
getting
don't
into
know.
layers of
So
rumor.
you get all these rumors and they cross each other, and at what point do you just have to just, like,
Yeah,
call it
yeah.
quits?
You're like basing your information off of other rumors and it's just getting all confused.
Mhm. Yeah,
Uh
your little conspiracy theory once
yeah,
you once you
ex-
get there.
exactly. Our third rumor is from Comic Book Gaming. These are all from the first two were from PlayStation Lifestyle.net,
Mhm.
just to give credit to those. But the third one, I don't know if it's as much a rumor as like an observation, which is that um, the popular PlayStation franchise Killzone is officially dead and will never be coming back. And the article kind of goes to list, a pretty, I don't know if I would ever say important, but it was like a reasonably popular shooter for the PlayStation around the time like Halo was really big on the 360, and it just kind of never gained a lot of ground and then sort of fell off. And now that Guerrilla's make Horizon, which is super successful, and like why would they? They're at least probably going to make a third entry in that game before anything else. And yeah, just they're saying Killzone's never coming back, and I mean, on one hand, maybe it's not, but on the other hand, those also could be games that could be like maybe the retro ones at least come to the PlayStation Premium.
Yeah, PlayStation Premium seems about right. What's funny is these like, yeah, rumor that Killzone's dead, and it's not a good sign for Killzone's like longevity when you hear that like, like snappy, like attention catching title and you go, "Wait, which one was Killzone?" Like when was the last time anyone ever like mentioned Killzone? So, yeah, I think this is like if anything unfortunately old news.
Yeah, exactly. It's like weird to
Yeah.
even write this, right? But the thing is though, I wouldn't say anything's ever officially dead. Like you see some
Yeah.
games that kind of come out of nowhere. You never know, like maybe in 10 years in the future, like first person shooters will just come so back into fashion even more than they are at this point, and like PlayStation's like, "You know what? Let's try it again." There's I don't think there's ever a
Yeah.
never say never moment.
Yeah,
100%.
exactly, and it's like, yeah, there will always be potential for, like, yeah, a remaster, like, 37 years later, and it's like, "Oh, shit, I remember that game," and then, yeah,
37 years later, yeah.
I'm
Imagine being
calling
like
it.
60 and you're like, "Oh, Killzone."
I'm calling it. In 37 years, Killzone's coming back.
Yeah, write it down, folks. Someone let us know in 37 years. Write in. Um, our last rumor is actually it's like a series of rumors within a rumor. There was apparently a leak from one of the Ubisoft's upcoming game showcases with some games that are apparently going to be shown off. So we're going to go through these and see what we think. Some of them I think they're listing in the article from Push Square are more of like sure bets. So I think I'm going to leave those out. But the first one was the
Mhm.
Crew 3. Apparently that's rumored. I don't really know anything about the Crew other than PlayStation driving game, which didn't seem to be super popular. So maybe it's a bit surprising getting a
Mhm.
third game. I don't know if I would necessarily love to believe that, especially since Gran Turismo just came out as well, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Kind of strange. The second one was an Immortals Phoenix Rising sequel, which that's pretty interesting. People
Mhm.
really seem to like that game at like the launch of the PS5. The third one is a new Prince of Persia game, but in addition to the Sands of Time remake that we already saw, I think last year, and this one would be more of like a 2D platformer in the vein of an Ori and the Will of the Wisps, and that to me sounds like very cool. That was to be a and then the final one, and maybe the one I feel like could be the most interesting, is an Assassin's Creed small scale spin off codenamed Rift, and apparently that would be focused on stealth. So I wonder if that would be related at all to that online mode that you were talking about last episode, Kate.
Yeah. I doubt it, and also that one confused me because like, aren't all Assassin's Creed games, like, stealth
I
focused?
think I think some of the newer ones like the Valhalla and the was
Okay,
the one in
they're more
Egypt before, they
action.
were a little bit less stealth and more like character action sort of.
Okay, I see. So
Yeah.
it's almost like taking it back to its roots because Assassin's Creed for me, I've only played like the first 3 entries in the series was very like stealth focused.
Mhm. So maybe a throwback
Um
to that then.
Throwback. Yeah, these sound kind of neat. The Prince of Persia one is a series I've like always known about and never been into, but just calling it like an Ori kind of thing seems cool because it's got like this, it's a neat setting and they had that like rewind mechanic is neat. So I could see that
Yeah.
being interesting for a platformer similar to something like Ori. You could make that mechanic
Yeah, it
give you some like a lot of creativity for level
makes me
design.
think of that. Remember that really? I mean, one of the OG like indie darlings, Braid, that
Yeah.
platformer where you could rewind time. Like there could be sort of puzzles like that. I guess. No, I feel like
Hmm.
there hasn't been a game like that in quite a while. Like really since Braid, I can really put same feeling towards as that. I guess. So let's do a thing here. Which of these do you think is the most and least likely? Let's do a quick ranking here. I think we can safely put the Crew at the bottom. That just to me
Okay.
that doesn't make a lot
Yeah.
of sense.
That's fair. I don't know anything about the Crew, and so therefore I am okay just, like, slapping it at the bottom. Um, I think the Assassin's Creed one is maybe the most likely, even
Really?
just for the fact that they just make so many games, and so, like, even if you're just kind of, shooting randomly, like, you're bound to hit something with Assassin's
Right.
Creed.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
So like,
Yeah.
even if they're building, like, what Assassin's Creed, like, 27 or whatever the newest one is, they might also be building a small scale stealthy
Exactly. Yeah.
one, so
Exactly.
it's never off the table.
That's such a good point. You know what? Like that Assassin's Creed really is that franchise. So you're not
Yeah.
wrong. I think that probably could be the most likely. The other two I feel are kind of neck and neck as in terms of likelihood. I wouldn't be surprised
Mhm.
if like if it only makes sense there would be a sequel to Immortals, but I feel like it seems very soon to be shown that considering
Yeah.
the first game's quite large and it only just came out like last year. It seems like maybe
Yeah.
at least a year too early unless
That's
it's
what that's what I was thinking. I'd be, like, almost expecting more something like a DLC for it. But I don't know, that game, like and I yeah, a game like that too takes a long time to develop. I guess if they're building it in the same kind of world and they're able to reuse a lot of the
right.
assets and the engine for the first game. But I don't know, that's a game that's been on my list to play for quite a while, and it just never quite, like, breaches the top of the list.
Yeah, that's the
But
thing.
the world just looks so much fun, and when we played that demo for Stadia, the narrator was, like, a absolute blast, so it just looks like such a charming game. I want that to be
Mhm,
true.
mhm.
So,
Yeah,
yeah, my bias might be getting in the way, but I wanna go for Phoenix.
that's interesting. I feel like I would actually prefer the Prince of Persia one just because, I mean, I love those Ori style games, those Metroidvanias.
Mhm.
But also, I feel like Ubisoft, if I mean, maybe I'm getting a bit specific with what I would want, but it would be cool if it was sort of in that Ubi Arts engine that like that what's it called? Valiant Hearts and those other
Oh,
really beautiful kind of
yes.
artistic like painterly
Yes.
style games. Like if they managed to go for a really nice art style like that, because one of the things about Ori that's so nice is amazingly beautiful, detailed art of the world. And so if they could do something sort of like that, but with Prince of Persia and then add in some nice platforming and puzzles and whatnot, I think that could be.
Okay, you have sold me because while I'm not a massive Ubisoft person, their French division that made
Hmm.
Valiant Hearts and a couple other games, I think that is a beautiful game, and I would love to see them with more projects that
Yeah.
way. So, yeah, that would
If
be
it
so
was that
exciting.
team, if it was that team, I
Yeah,
would be so down.
yeah, let that team make it.
Okay.
Okay, I'm probably the most excited for that actually. Out of all of these things, I want that to be true based off of your random guess about it.
Right, right. My
Yeah.
ideation of what I would like, and then
Mhm.
remember, folks, if that's not the case, though, we can't be disappointed because that's
Right.
never been said by them. That's my information.
Yeah, that's true, and also it's a rumor to begin with,
That's right.
so
That's right. We're just
yeah.
piling on. All right. Well, I guess that's all the rumors we actually have for PlayStation for now. So let's move into the out of town news, and we have some interesting stuff to start with. BAFTA, the 75th year actually happened. This is the British Film Academy Awards, but I think they have a gaming division, obviously, games,
Mhm.
a lot of awards as well. So, I mean, just going through the list here, there's obviously a link everyone can go see with the full list, but I think we'll just talk about some of our highlights here. And I know one thing that's going to stand out to you right away, Returnal again, so successful.
Yes, and not just successful, but, like, it took the best game award as well, like, I think it got music and audio achievement, which at least one of those it won at the, like,
I think it won audio
the
design.
traditional game awards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won audio design, I think. So we got audio design and music, which, like, clearly a standout selling point of the game. But then Returnal also did take best game, and it's just so exciting to see. I think, like, it deserves it so much. And actually as well, Jane Perry is, she won best performing, like, a leading role, and
Oh,
that's
wow.
Celine for
Right.
Returnal as well. So
Right. Yeah. I
she
was
did
going
an
to ask if you
amazing
knew who that
job.
was. I didn't put that together. Wow.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
really, because this is voted on by sort of industry people in the industry and what, and just see the respect Returnal gets, and I know
Yeah.
it's just one of those
Well,
games.
I think it's what I've been saying this whole time, it's one of those sleeper hits that not enough people played it,
Yeah.
but everyone who did play it it's a special experience.
Speaking of special experiences, one that I really want to point out here is Unpacking. Really did
Oh my god.
won a lot. I mean,
Mhm.
it won the EE Game of the Year, which is best as I could tell from kind of reading the site is the sort of the fan voted Game of the Year. So
Yeah.
that's saying something. I always feel when it's like such a small indie game, and I know it gets talked
Mhm.
about quite a bit online, but it's still like, I mean, doesn't have the sort of huge sales and huge like word of mouth like some Ratchet and Clank or all those. So it's cool to see it win
Mhm.
that for fan vote, and also it won narrative as well for second award. And I think that's so cool because the game has like, you know, less than 100 lines of dialogue total, right? And yet it tells such a
Yep.
powerful story. So I think it's a really special game in that way too. I'm really glad to see it getting recognized here, and I know it got recognized at a few other shows as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and I was just saying to you before we started recording as well, like, unpacking is, like, just increasing, like, it is getting so high on my list, like, I have such an itch to play this game, and just seeing this here really solidifies, like, I just pick up a month of Game Pass just to play
Yeah,
Unpacking
you really could.
specifically.
You really could.
Um, the other one I wanna shout out, and this is a game I haven't played, but I actually found out about maybe just a week ago, and I think it's fascinating, but this game Before Your Eyes won Game
Yes,
Beyond Entertainment, and so I don't know if you've heard about this
I have
game.
heard a bit about it. It seems
Um,
incredibly cool.
it seems so cool, and it seems like something that, like, you can only experience in a video game, like, that is the only medium where something like this works. But what it does is it's a very story-driven game, and I think you actually have to hook up, like, a webcam
Yeah,
to play the game, and so you're experiencing stories, I think, kind of out of order, maybe like different characters, and you're sort of flitting in and out of scenes. But the way it works is that it tracks your eye movements with the webcam, and when you blink, that's when you switch scenes. You can be in the middle of something and you're really interested and you want to see what happens, but then you blink and you're somewhere else, and it
yeah.
seems chaotic and emotional. And all I've ever heard about this game is it's like, be prepared to cry, like, it's gonna demolish you emotionally. But I just think the concept is so incredibly creative,
Yeah.
and so it's neat to see this, like, it didn't win any other awards, I don't even think it was nominated for any other awards, but it came out and just like, it's such a neat category of game beyond entertainment, like,
Yeah,
it is
yeah.
something it supersedes that and is something more. It's an experience.
Right, right. I think that's such a strong point, and it's definitely a game that I feel like I'm definitely gonna go back to it
Mhm.
someday. I maybe we should line it up and play it at the same time. I don't think it's
That
very
would be
long.
awesome.
I don't think it's very
No.
long, so maybe we could do like a spoiler cast and talk all about that one time. That'd be
Okay. I would love that.
so yeah. Put that in the maybe to happen in the. I guess one last one for me to point out. I've talked a lot on the show earlier about the Artful Escape, so I'm glad that that one
Mhm.
artistic achievement. I think it's got. I mean, it just oozes art, right? Whether it's the visuals or music that goes in, like there's full on concerts in the game in
Mhm.
certain ways. So it's just very artistic. And then the last one for me, Inscription, game design, one of the best game design. It's such a special game, and I feel so guilty. I've been recommending it to you so hard, and I
Mhm.
myself only made it about halfway and then just kind of fell off playing it. So I'm actually planning to restart my file very soon and go all the way through.
Okay.
And because man, I was hooked for so long, and I just one of those things, you just stop playing for some reason. Like, why did I
Yeah,
stop?
you
This was
just
so
get busy
fun.
with something else, and
Yeah.
yeah, it does tend to, especially you Game Pass users, you got a million games to pick from.
The
It's how do
problem,
you narrow it
I know.
down? But yeah, I mean, it's nice to see a lot of smaller games in here. I mean, I think we'd be remiss too just to point out that Ratchet and Clank took
Right.
technical achievement and also I think animation. So like,
Was
you
technical
know,
achievement and yeah, yeah, you're right.
and animation, yeah. And so like, no one needs to tell you that that game is beautiful. That game is definitely beautiful.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's the thing. And there's always so much action going on that screen. Like it is a technical achievement that there's zero lag whatsoever, and it can handle all. Very cool game. Sure. Um, all right, Kate. So next up, we are going to talk about an interesting fact about the Quarry. And for those of you who do not know about the Quarry or what that is, this is the new game from Supermassive Games, the makers of Until Dawn, and also the House of Ashes trilogy, what's it called, the Dark Picture
um,
anthologies.
Picture anthologies,
So
yeah.
these are very much those games that Kate and I love, which are the choose your own adventure style, sort of narrative, quick time event, like pick your path, sort of anyone can die games like this. Until Dawn, I mean, what a game. I love that game. In fact, I feel very guilty it wasn't on my top 25 now that I
Mhm.
am talking about this. Maybe we screwed that up, Kate. But anyway, The Quarry is our next game up. It looks pretty freaky if you haven't seen the trailer. And what's interesting about this one is it's going to have something called movie mode, which allows you to basically just sit back and I guess you pick a few options. So maybe you pick like who your favorite characters just to make sure the choice happens where they live or something.
Well, I think you pick, so I looked into it a little bit more because I thought
Okay.
this was fascinating, but you select because in the Dark Picture anthology specifically, I think Until Dawn was like this too, you play a lot of different characters, like,
Hmm.
we compared it to something like Quantic Dream is the other studio that does this kind of stuff with, like, Heavy Rain and, um Detroit and whatnot. And I think of the 2, they're my preference.
Hmm.
Um, but in these ones, like Until Dawn, I think you have a wider breadth of characters you typically
Yeah.
tend to play as. And so what you do is you kinda select traits for each one. So you say like, this character, Carlos, I think I would personally wanna play him a bit aggressive. And then like, Johnny over there, I think he's like a really soft spoken and quiet.
Mm,
And I think you kinda pick like what way you want them to approach situations, and then the game, instead of you selecting those dialogue choices when you get there, or like, which path the character would take, it just selects it for you based off of what traits you've given each character, is my
right,
understanding.
right.
So
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And to me, that's super cool because
yeah.
these are the kind of games that are just as much fun to be like watching as they are playing even if you're sitting in the same room, like kind of just having a good time, making some silly choices and enjoying this campy sort of horror. But it's just such a cool feature. I don't know why they wouldn't have done this before. It's probably not that tough to do.
Yeah. That was my takeaway from it too, is like, "Oh, you know what? Like, it's such an obvious thing to do because, yeah, like, you're making choices for the character, and that's a really cool thing because I feel like I get really invested, doing that, like, especially I'll probably talk next episode about Detroit because I've now officially finished it. But like, oh my
Congratulations.
god, like, thank you. But yeah, like I was genuinely so emotional about what was gonna happen. Like there were some choices at the end where like I was playing with my friend and you're supposed to like make one quickly in the moment,
Hmm.
right? It gives you a time limit intentionally. But I'd pause the controller and we'd just both be like looking at each other with like our hands on our foreheads and like stress. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
stood up at one point. I paused the game and stood up and, like, walked around the living room.
They're like, I can't
Like,
deal with this.
because, like, we were so invested in the story and the characters, and then because we'd been making choices for them all game, like, it really felt like it was our responsibility to make sure that they ended up okay
Yeah,
at the conclusion of the game. So, I like that aspect of this game, but I think this is such a good way of, like, meshing. You still get that because you still chose paths for the
yeah,
characters, but also if you're not interested in the game aspects and you don't wanna have to do hard QTEs and a character dies because you didn't do the QTEs very successfully, like, you can just kinda skip that and just watch it in a more relaxing setting, and I think that's, like, such a perfect compromise, and I love it.
I agree. It'd be cool, and you could even treat it as like, okay, we're gonna watch it, this first time and pick this, and then we're gonna shift all the characters around and watch it one more time and kind of go.
Yeah,
I bet you you'd have a pretty different experience. I mean, it's like that when you play the game, so you have the same
yeah.
story. Which is very
Absolutely,
cool.
and what I just thought about too that I didn't initially consider is it's amazing for replay, because in games like that, I play it one way, and then I don't wanna play the whole game again, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you replay certain scenes, especially at the beginning, and, like, I don't wanna have to, like, physically do it a second time, but if I could just put on that mode and, change the parameters for certain characters and, like,
Right.
I wanna see what it's like when this character's an asshole, I might do that in the game and watch it that way instead of just, like, Googling
Right.
different
Yeah, that makes a
choices.
lot of sense, and just kind of zone out or do something else in the
Yeah.
background while it was a scene you've seen. Yeah, lots of sense.
Mhm.
Lots of sense. Speaking of making lots of sense, the next story we have to talk about: Epic Games is partnering with Lego to create a new kid-friendly metaverse. So, what exactly the metaverse is, I guess we'll come to understand in the future. But to me, it seems very much like, hey, let's kind of do what we're doing with Fortnite, but sort of make it Lego. And I know Fortnite does a lot of concerts and those type of like meta experiences. So, I mean, there could definitely be something more kid-friendly aimed in like a Lego universe kind as well. And I think, I mean, it says aimed at kids, but I mean, Lego's just damn cool. There was some world you can go build Lego, like that might be cool to check out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, the barrier for Lego is not age, it's price.
Right, right. Yes.
Cool Lego sets are expensive.
One could argue
But
Legos for
they
adults, actually.
Yeah, yeah, I don't think kids can afford it, to be honest. So, yeah. I mean, this is super cool. My first thought was like, "Is this just Minecraft?" But I don't think it's
Right.
a game. I think it's a hangout space, maybe? I'm not really clear on what the metaverse is.
Yeah.
Um, but, I
I
mean,
think
this
it's a
is
lot of
cool.
things.
I think it's a lot. It's a concept. It's an experience. But I think it's cool, and I trust Epic. They seem like they've got like a really consumer friendly head on their shoulders. Like, they give me so many free games all the time, and like the only criticism you ever see of Epic is like, oh, I don't want to use that platform. I want to use Steam. But that's not a criticism of Epic. Epic's a good platform.
Right,
So
right. That's just you being
yeah.
inflexible and not wanting to
Hmm.
leave what you're used to. Which I mean, there's an element of that which makes sense, but also like Epic's just doing good stuff.
Yeah. They could have a share function, like Steam Share lets you share your games.
Yeah, that'd
Epic
be
could
nice.
implement that eventually, but otherwise, like, they seem great. Fortnite, for all the slack it gets, genuinely seems like a fantastic game, and I'm, like, fully supportive of whatever Epic wants to do at this point.
Yeah.
As far as I know, I don't know anything, and
Right,
their
right.
skeletons in their closet may or may not exist, but
Oh,
they
I'm sure.
seem
I'm sure they
great.
must, but I mean, at
Yeah.
least in like for what they do for consumers, I don't think it's. I mean, I think it's obvious that they're quite consumer friendly. So, that's great. And just on the edge air of Fortnite too, I'm segueing to the next and final news story we have. But, I've been playing a lot of Fortnite recently. I'm in, and I'll tell you what got me in, Kate. I don't know if you know this or not, but they've introduced a mode where you can't build anymore. So
Yes,
there's none
I
of that
did hear
going
that.
on. And without the building in the game, oh my god, I've got some friends I play with, and we are just an absolute unit in that game. Like we won like back-to-back games the other night. The second those building goes away, because I mean, when you run into people who know what they're doing, they can build like a whole house around themselves in like 3 seconds.
Mhm.
You just can't do anything. But taking that away, tons of fun. We've been playing, and I even put a bit of money into it, and I'll tell you why. Because the last news story is, as I think we may have mentioned on the show before, Fortnite did a fundraiser for the Ukraine relief efforts, and they donated pretty much every profit towards Fortnite towards this effort, which was just amazing. They raised 144 million US dollars for the effort, which is just an absurd amount of money and very I mean, it's just a great cause, and so I was happy to put a few bucks in. And I mean, I've never bought anything in Fortnite before, but I was gonna donate to this anyway, so I got something for it. Been
Mhm.
playing a lot. It was just a great time, and I feel like positive about it too because of this.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a fantastic thing. And this article is interesting. There's some numbers for comparison, and obviously, like I don't want to say like these other companies aren't doing enough because like they donated like insane amounts of money. Like even one
Yeah.
million dollars is like an insane amount, like an almost incomprehensible amount of money. Um, but for comparison, just interesting how big the reach of Fortnite is, and also maybe they contributed higher percentages. Who knows? But
Hmm.
Riot, so League of Legends developer Riot donated 5.4 million
Right.
through their fundraising. Itch.io did that bundle of games, and they raised 6 million, and then Humble Bundle raised 20 million.
Wow. Humble Bundle
So
outdid Riot too. That's
Humble Bundle did Riot, so yeah, 20 million. But like Fortnite did 144. Like it dwarfs all of them combined. Like that is an
right.
insane amount of money that was raised and then donated.
Yeah, well, we were talking about it a little bit because we're like 144 obviously just shows first of all like how much money Fortnite makes on a weekly basis. Like we want to talk about why Epic can so easily be like here's two free games a week. It's because I
Yeah.
mean Fortnite's making absurd amounts of money. The only thing is that I feel like the number is probably a little inflated to higher than they would normally be making in a month just
Yeah.
because people are obviously like me are coming on and buying things which you usually wouldn't. I would
Mhm.
usually just play with whatever skins I had and go with that. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely,
it's
but I feel like the other ones are like that too, right? Like,
sure,
League
sure.
players, I'll pay a little more. Oh, I'll buy the skin because it's for the relief. So I
Yeah,
think
that's a
that's
good
like
point.
they're all inflated numbers, and it's we don't know. Like maybe Riot kept half the money and donated,
Yeah,
like only
right.
half of the proceeds, whatever. But it's just an insane amount of like like Fortnite wins like multiplayer game of the year every single year, and this is why. It's because enough people are playing that in
Yeah,
2 weeks they can make $144 million.
exactly.
So,
Pretty
for a good
bananas.
cause,
Pretty
so
bananas.
yeah.
And
Mhm.
like I said, if you guys are on the fence about Fortnite, I know it gets a bad rap, but without the building, oh my god, so much fun.
Honestly, that does a lot for me. I heard that the other day, from someone I know who plays, and I was like, "You know what?
Yeah,
That would be, like, the push that would get
so
me to
much
play it
fun.
for
And you can
sure."
also like you can sprint now, and if you're sprinting, you can kind of run slam through doors, so it's a lot more mobile, and you're kind of zipping up through the sky with a few different things. There's just a lot of movement and no building because I think the building encourages you to like stay in one place, right? Like where you tower. So now it's like you're moving
Yeah.
all the time. There's a lot of stuff going on. So I'm having a lot of fun. Um, yeah. Anyway, we have one story left. We always like to close out the news show with a sort of a funny story or a heartwarming story. So this week I have found just an interesting article pertaining to Elden Ring, which I have not showed Kate, and I'm interested to see what you think of this article's opinion. This is from Fanbyte. Jenny Zhang wrote this back on the 1st of April. So I'm just going to get Kate to pull up this number one article I've got right here. Just read the first couple paragraphs, and then we'll put the link to the article in the description of episode, just so that everyone can go and read the full thing for themselves. But I'll leave it up to Kate here to read
Oh
this
my
the start of this article here.
god. Where did you find
It's on
this?
Fanbyte. I was
Oh
just
my
looking
god.
around.
This is so funny. Oh my god. I'm so glad that I didn't know about this ahead of time. Alright, this is probably the best, article title I've ever heard. Elden Ring is a horse girl game, actually. I love the magical immortal horse Torrent, and Torrent loves me. It's true, it's true. The beauty of Elden Ring is that you can play it any way you want. A fighting game? No problem. Just get one of those fingers and invade away. A role playing game? Sure, there's plenty of lore to excavate in the main questline and NPC side quests. Perhaps even a wife or two to put a ring on. Rainy, if you're reading this, know I'm on my way to you soon. And in between getting slaughtered in hilarious level 15 PvP fights and facing constant death, I've recently taken to playing Elden Ring like a horse girl game. Think Barbie Horse Adventures Riding Camp, but instead it's Elden Ring Riding Horse Camp Tarnished Edition. Just me and my horse Torrent, Torrent and me. I give full credit to Katie Corona's a viral meme comparing Elden Ring and the various Barbie horse games for opening my third eye and giving me language for how I've been taking torrent on walks.
Isn't that just so wholesome, Kate? How do
This
you feel about
is
this article?
amazing. I think there's a lot going on
There's a
here.
lot. Yeah.
I mean, I feel bad because I don't hang out with Torrent anywhere near as much as I should. But I will agree he's a good boy,
Yes.
and there's like there's like food in the game that you can give him, and it's supposed to like I think it like heals him in combat. And I spend every minute I can trying not to be on horseback in combat because I just think it's less fun than being on foot.
Right, of course.
You can't parry on horseback. This is kind of a bummer. But what I do is occasionally I just feed him the food anyways because I just want him to be
Just to be
happy.
nice. Yeah.
So I'm 100% on board. If you know what it reminds me of as well is Grandma Shirley, our favorite YouTuber.
Yes,
She
yes.
plays Skyrim and she like did a Skyrim playthrough like as a merchant and just kind of went around like collecting stuff and selling stuff to like other shops because like she just wanted to role play as being a
That's so
merchant and just
wholesome,
not
so
fighting
wholesome.
stuff. So that's adorable.
Very nice. So if you want to click, I left you a second link as well, which is that Twitter thread of these screenshots that are comparing this game.
Right.
And I'll leave it in the description for the video and podcast listeners as well. But if you click this Twitter thread, it actually you can see the inspiration, right?
Oh
Like,
my god, it's so funny. The first picture that comes up is a picture of like you customizing your Barbie, and it just says getting close to completing the new armor set.
she's got like horse riding pants.
Yeah, she's got like the boots and
Yeah, my favorite one's the
this
one
is
of like
so
there's like
funny.
a I don't know what you'd call it. It's not a gazebo, but it's like a little stone pillared place with a chest in the middle and she's on horseback and it's like this does look like an N64 Barbie horse version of Elden Ring, doesn't it? Like
It does.
it is pretty accurate.
Oh my god, this is so funny. It's really just to say, I mean, Elden Ring was already game of the year, but now it just has like
Yeah.
Barbie horse
It's
mode.
opened
So like
itself up to a whole new audience now
yeah,
of Barbie horse
exactly. There
enthusiasts.
there is there is no wrong way to play.
Exactly. Oh man. Okay. Well, I think that's going to be it for the show today, Kate. I guess we should mention it if you'd like to write into us and let opinion on any of these news articles or something we may have missed that you'd like us to talk about on the next news show. You can link those articles to us at circlesandsquarespod@gmail.com. Or you can of course get in touch with us on Twitter at CNSPod. All our links, of course, are in description or whatever you're reading this episode. And be sure to check out that Horse Girl article because it is awesome. But until next time, this has been the Circles and Squares News Report, and thank you for listening.